Chapter 6. A gentleman's illness confounds his boatman. An injured widow accuses her brother-in-law. Lying there at the point of death, Yen Tai-yu stretched out 2 fingers and refused to breathe his last. And when his nephews and servants made various wild guesses whether he meant two people, 2 events, or 2 places, he simply shook his head. But now his wife had stepped forward to say, "I'm the only one who understands you. You're worried because there are 2 wicks in the lamp. That's a waste of oil. If I take out 1 wick, it'll be all right." Suiting her actions to her words, she removed 1 wick. All eyes were fixed on Mr. Yin, who nodded his head, let fall his hand, and breathed his last. Then all the family, great and small, came to wail and prepare for the funeral, placing the coffin in the central hall of the 3rd courtyard. The next morning, servants went through the town, announcing the funeral. Yen Chin-hee-sin, the leader of the clan, came with the other relatives to mourn, and they were kept to a meal and given white linen for mourning. The widow had a brother who worked in a rice shop and a nephew who worked the bellows for a silversmith, and they brought mourning gifts too. Buddhists and Taoists hung up long banners and chanted their scriptures and performed the funeral rites, while the widow and her little son wailed morning and evening before the coffin. All the stewards, men servants and maid servants were in mourning, and the house and gate were draped in white. Soon the first 7 days passed, and Wang Te and Wang Jin returned from the provincial capital and came to mourn. They stayed for 1 day. After another 3 or 4 days, Senior Licentiate Yin came back too from the provincial capital. All his sons were mourning in their uncle's hall, so Senior Licentiate Yin was sitting alone with his wife after his luggage had been unpacked. He was just going to have a wash when the wet nurse from his brother's house came in with a servant carrying a case and a package. "The widow sends you her greetings on your return, sir," she said. "Since she is in deep mourning, she can't come over to see you. It was our master's last wish that these 2 changes of clothing and this silver should be given to you to remember him by. Please come over soon." In the case, Senior Licentiate Yin found 2 brand new sets of silk clothes, and in the package 200 taels of silver. Very pleased, he immediately asked his wife for 80 cents, which he gave to the nurse, saying, "Convey my thanks to your mistress. I will come over at once." Then the nurse and the servant left. As he put the clothes and silver away, Senior Licentiate Yin questioned his wife carefully as to what she and their sons had received. When he had made sure that they had all got something, and that this gift was for himself alone, he changed into a mourning cap and white cloth belt and went across to the other house. He called his brother's name before the coffin, wailed a few times without shedding tears, and bowed twice. The widow came out in deep mourning to thank him, and called her son to kowtow to his uncle. "Fate has been cruel to us and cut off his father in the prime of life," she said, shedding tears. "We have no one but you to guide us." "All the men have their allotted span of life, ma'am," replied Yin. "My brother has gone to heaven, but you have a fine son. If you bring him up carefully, what have you to worry about?" The widow thanked him and invited him into the library for a meal, sending for the Wang brothers to keep him company. They greeted each other and sat down. "Your younger brother seems quite strong," said Wang Te. "How was it that he died suddenly after one illness?" "Although we are such near relatives, we were unable to see him before he died. We feel most upset about it." "Even I, his elder brother," retorted Yin, "was unable to see him before his death. But as the proverb says, public business comes before private affairs. The state comes before the family. Our examinations are a great affair of state, and since we were busy on state business, even if we had to neglect our own relatives, we need feel no compunction." "You were in the provincial capital for more than half a year, weren't you?" said Wang Te. "I was," replied Senior Licentiate Yin. "Commissioner Chow, the last examiner, recommended me for the rank of Senior Licentiate. He has a relative in this province who used to be magistrate of Chow County, so I went to the provincial capital to pay my respects. We took to each other immediately, and he pressed me to stay for several months. In fact, he insisted on marrying his 2nd daughter to my 2nd son." "Did you stay in his house in the provincial capital?" "No, I stayed with Chang Chin Chai. He had been a county magistrate too, and is Magistrate Tang's nephew. I got to know him at a feast in Magistrate Tang's yamen. He arranged the match with the Chow family." Didn't he come that year with a certain scholar named Fan Chin?" asked Wang Jin. "That's the man," said Senior Licentiate Yin. Wang Jin shot a glance at his brother and said, "You remember, that was when they had trouble with the Muslims." Wang Te gave a sarcastic laugh. Just then the feast was spread. While eating, they began to talk again. Magistrate Tang has not been appointed examiner this year, said Wang Te. Don't you realize, brother, said Wang Jin? It's because last year he passed candidates who wrote essays in an outdated style. All the examiners this year are young palace graduates who go on for brilliant compositions. I don't know about that, objected Yin. Even if a man is brilliant, he must still abide by the rules. If he pays no attention to the subject and simply writes something showy, that can scarcely be called brilliant. My patron Commissioner Chow, for instance, who is most discriminating, always gives candidates who understand the tradition a first class. This year, the same sort of men will still come first. Yin said this because the two brothers had been ranked in the second class by Commissioner Chow. They took the hint and dropped the subject of the examinations. When the feast was nearly over, the brothers brought up the question of the lawsuit. Magistrate Tang was really angry. It was lucky that your brother, instead of pressing the issue, took steps to settle the matter. He made a mistake, said Yin. If I had been at home, one word from me to Magistrate Tang, we could have broken the legs of those rich as Wang and Huang. How dare those common people take such liberties with gentlemen? It is always better to be generous, murmured Wang Jin. Yin's face turned red. When they had drunk a few more cups together, the nurse came in carrying the boy and said, The mistress asked Senior Licentiate Yin when the burial should take place. She doesn't know if this is a propitious year, and should our late master be buried among the ancestors, or should another site be chosen? She hopes you will discuss it, sir, with these two gentlemen. Tell your mistress that I shall not be home long, replied the senior licentiate. I have to go back to the provincial capital for my second son's marriage at Mr. Chow's house. All questions connected with the funeral can be decided by these gentlemen. My brother can't be buried among the ancestors, though. You will have to look for another site. But wait till I come back to decide that. This said, they got up, bid them a curt goodbye, and went home. The Wang brothers also left. A few days later, Senior Licentiate Yin went with his second son to the provincial capital, and the widow was left in charge of the household. With plenty of money, rice, servants, and cattle, she lived in great comfort, while little guessing the cruel fate heaven had in store for her. Very soon, her son caught smallpox and ran a fever. The doctor said this was a dangerous disease and used potent drugs to cure it, but the rash did not come out properly. And though the distracted mother offered prayers at many temples, it was all to no purpose. After 1 week, the plump, white little fellow died. This time she wept more bitterly than at the death of the former wife, more bitterly too than at the death of her husband. For 3 whole days and nights she cried, crying until she had no more tears to shed, and then she buried her son. She wanted to adopt Senior Licentiate Yin's 5th son, and invited the Wang brothers over to discuss the question, but they hummed and hawed. We can't make any decision, they said. Senior Licentiate Yin is not at home, and since it is his son, you should consult his wishes. How can we decide it for him? My late husband had a little property, said the widow. Now his son is dead, the servants have no master. The question of adopting an heir can't wait, but I don't know how long it will be before Senior Licentiate Yin comes back. The 5th son is not 12 yet, and if I adopt him, they can trust me to love him and bring him up properly. When his mother knows what I want, I'm sure she will be glad to give him to me. And even Senior Licentiate Yin, when he comes back, will have nothing to say. Why can't you gentlemen take charge? Well, said Wang Te. We can go over and speak to her. How can you suggest such a thing, brother? Protested Wang Jin. The adoption of a son is an important matter. It can only be settled by the Yin family. However, since Mrs. Yin feels it so urgent, the best thing we can do is write a letter which she can get a servant to take post-haste to the provincial capital, urging Senior Licentiate Yin to come back and talk it over. That's a good idea, said Wang Te. But I don't imagine he will raise any objections when he does get back. That remains to be seen, brother. Wang Jin shook his head with a smile. But that's the only thing for us to do. The widow was mystified by his manner. However, they wrote a letter putting forward her proposal and charged one of the family servants, Lai Fu, not to rest day or night on his way to the provincial capital. Lai Fu travelled post-haste to the capital and learned that Senior Licentiate Yin was staying in High Bay Street. But when he reached the house and saw 4 attendants in red and black caps in the doorway holding whips, he was too frightened to go in. Presently, however, Yen's servant Su Tao came out, and he took Lai Fu in. In the hall there were decorated seats and chairs, and beside it a canopy inscribed with Senior Licentiate Yen's official rank. Su Tao went in and brought back his master, who was wearing a gauze cap, official dress, and black shoes with white soles. Lai Fu stepped forward, kowtowed, and delivered the letter. When Yen had read it, he said, "I understand, but my second son is getting married today. You can help to wait on the guest." Lai Fu went down to the kitchen where cooks were preparing the feast. The bridal room on the first floor was decked in scarlet and green, and he would have liked to see it, but he dared not go up. Right up to sunset, not a single musician had arrived. In his new square cap and red sash, garlanded with flowers, the bridegroom was pacing anxiously up and down, demanding to know what had happened to them. Yen shouted to Su Tao from the hall, "Hurry up and get those trumpeters." "Today is an auspicious day," said Su Tao. "Lots of people are getting married. Even if you gave the musicians 80 cents of silver, they wouldn't come. But you only gave them 24 cents, then deducted another 2 cents, expecting the Chen family to force them to come. The musicians are very busy in other families. How can I get them here?" "You dog," roared Senior Licentiate Yen. "Hurry up and fetch them here. If they're late, you'll get a box on the ears." Su Tao scowled and slunk off, grumbling. "He hasn't given us a single bowl of rice since morning, yet he throws his damned weight about." Dusk fell and lamps had to be lit, but Su Tao did not reappear, and the seat and chair bearers and attendants in red and black caps were impatient to be off. "We had better not wait for the musicians," said the guest. "The auspicious hour has come. Let's go and fetch the bride." The 4 attendants in red and black caps led the way with the canopy, while Lai Fu followed the chairs to the Chow house. The Chow family lived in a great mansion, and although several candles had been lit, it was still dark in the courtyard. In the absence of musicians, the 4 attendants called out to announce their arrival in the dark courtyard. They went on shouting until Lai Fu felt quite embarrassed and asked them to be quiet. Someone from the Chow household gave them the order. "Please tell Senior Licentiate Yen that the bride will leave when the musicians come, not before." There was bawling and brawling until Su Tao came back with 2 musicians, 1 flute player and 1 drummer. They struck up feebly in the hall, but were unable to play in harmony, and the bystanders could not stop laughing. The Chow family raised some objections, but there was nothing they could do, and the bride had to be sent off in her chair. Several days had passed. Senior Licentiate Yen ordered Lai Fu and Su Tao to hire 2 boats manned by boatmen from Cao Yao to take them home, promising the boatmen 12 taels of silver to be paid on arrival. 1 boat was for the bride and bridegroom and the other for the Senior Licentiate. They chose an auspicious day and took leave of their relatives. 1 pair of golden and another pair of white placards and 4 spears, all emblems of the Yamen, had been borrowed from the former Chow County magistrate and placed on deck, and musicians were hired to pipe them to the boat. The overawed boatmen did their best to please these important passengers, and the journey passed without incident. The last day of the trip, when they were less than 10 miles from Cao Yao, Senior Licentiate Yen suddenly had a spell of faintness. He retched and vomited, while Lai Fu and Su Tao took his arms to prevent him from falling. I feel ill, he groaned. "Put me down, Su Tao, and boil some water." He flopped down, groaning and whimpering, while Su Tao and the boatman hastily boiled water and took it to his cabin. Then the Senior Licentiate unlocked a case, took out 12 small walnut wafers, ate a few of them, rubbed his stomach, and immediately felt better. He left a few wafers by the tiller, as if he had no further use for them. The steersman, who happened to have a sweet tooth, went on steering with his left hand, while with his right hand he carried wafer after wafer to his mouth. Yen, however, pretended not to see what he was doing. Presently their boats moored at Cao Yao Wharf. Senior Licentiate Yen told Lai Fu to hire seat and chairs and escort the young couple home first, while he called dockers to put up all their luggage ashore. When the boatmen and dockers came to ask for tips, Yin went back to his cabin and made a show of looking around for something. "Where is my medicine gone?" asked Su Tao. "What medicine?" "That medicine I was eating just now. I put it by the tiller." "Do you mean those walnut wafers you left by the tiller?" asked the steersman. "I thought you didn't want them, so I finished them up." "The walnut wafers indeed," exclaimed Yin. "Do you know what those walnut wafers were made of?" "Just melon seeds, walnuts, sugar, and flour, I suppose." "You dog," roared Yin. "Because I have these fits of dizziness, I spent several hundred taels of silver to buy this medicine. Mr. Chang of the provincial capital brought the ginseng in for me when he was an official in Shantung, and Mr. Chow brought the gentian when he was magistrate in Sichuan. You had no business touching it, you scoundrel." "Walnut wafers indeed. Nearly 100 taels worth of medicine have disappeared down your throat. And what am I to take next time I have an attack? You've played me a dirty trick, you dog." He ordered Su Tao to open his portfolio so that he could write a note to send his account to Magistrate Tang's Yamen for a good beating. With a scared, conciliatory smile, the steersman said, "It tasted very sweet. I didn't know it was medicine. I thought it was walnut wafers." "You still call them walnut wafers," the senior licentiate bellowed. "Call them walnut wafers again, and I'll box your ears." He had already written the note and now handed it to Su Tao, who started to hurry ashore. The dockers helped the boatmen to stop him. Both lots of boatmen were scared stiff. "He was wrong, Your Honor," they said. "He shouldn't have eaten your medicine, but he's a poor man. Even if he sells everything he has, he won't be able to pay you anything like 100 taels of silver. And if he's sent to court, he'll be ruined. Please be generous, sir, and overlook it." But Senior Licentiate Yin only flew into a worse rage. Some of the dockers came aboard and said to the boatmen, "You wrote this on yourselves. If you hadn't asked the gentleman for tips, he would have gone to his seat and chair. But once you stopped him, he found out about his medicine. Since you know you're in the wrong, why don't you kowtow and ask Senior Licentiate Yin's pardon? Do you expect him to pay you if you don't make good his loss?" Then they all forced the steersman to kowtow. Yin softened a little and said, "Very well. Since you've all pleaded for him, and I am busy with my son's wedding, I shall deal with this scoundrel later. He didn't think he can get away." After more curses, he swaggered to a seat and chair, followed by the servants and luggage. He left the boatman gaping, for he had gone off without paying for the trip. Once home, Yin ordered his son and daughter-in-law to worship the ancestors, and called his wife out so that they might bow to her. His wife was causing a fine commotion, moving furniture. "What are you doing?" Yin asked. You seem to have forgotten how small this house is," she retorted. "There's only one decent room in it. Since the new daughter-in-law comes from a good family, we must give her the best room." "Rubbish," said her husband. "I've got it all worked out. There's no need to turn things upside down like this. My brother's house is big enough. They can stay here." "It may be big, but what makes you think your son can move in?" "Since that woman has no son living, one of our sons should inherit my brother's property." "Yes, but it's our 5th son she wants." "What right is she to decide?" demanded Yin. "Who does she think she is? I'm appointing an heir to my brother. It has nothing to do with her." While his wife was still wondering what he meant, one of the widow's servants came to say, Our mistress has heard that you are back, and invites you over for a discussion. The 2 Wang gentlemen are also there." Senior Licentiate Yin accordingly walked over. After exchanging polite platitudes with Wang Te and Wang Jin, he summoned the servants and ordered them to clean out the main suite, because the next day his 2nd son would be moving in with his bride. When the widow heard that, she thought that he wanted her to adopt the 2nd son. She called in the Wang brothers and asked, "What did he say? When the daughter-in-law comes, she should stay in the back rooms while I stay in the front ones. And that way I can look after them better. Why should I move into the back? It's unheard of that a daughter-in-law should live in the best rooms, while her mother-in-law lives in the back." "Don't get upset," said Wang Zhen. "Let him say what he likes. Of course you have to be consulted." They rejoined Yin, and after a little more conversation and a cup of tea, Their servants came in to tell them that classmates were waiting for them to go to a literary meeting. Then they took their leave. When Senior Licentiate Yin had seen them off, he sat down, summoned a dozen or so stewards, and proceeded to issue orders. "My second son is coming here tomorrow as your former master's heir," he told them. "He will be your new master, and you must serve him well. Since concubine Chao has no children, he will treat her as his father's concubine, and she has no right to stay in the front rooms. So tell the maidservants to sweep out the back rooms and move her things out, and clear the front rooms for your new master. Concubine Chao must keep her place. The new master will call her new wife, and she should call him master, and his wife mistress. In a day or so, when my daughter-in-law comes, concubine Chao should pay her respects first, and then my son will greet her. We upper-class families have to observe such etiquette scrupulously. As for the accounts for the fields, houses, and money in your care, you must bring them up to date at once, and I will check them before passing them on to my son. You'll find things very different from when they were under your old master, who left everything to his concubine and let you get away with anything. Anyone who tries to deceive me will get 30 strokes and be sent to Magistrate Tang's Yamen and forced to pay up." Promising to obey him, the stewards withdrew, and Yin went back to his own house. Acting on Senior Licentiate Yin's orders, the steward went to the widow's room to move out to her belongings. She cursed them so roundly that they dared not touch a thing. But because they had all along resented the airs that she gave herself, they now banded together to say, "How dare we disobey the master's orders? For, after all, he is the rightful master. If he becomes angry, what shall we do?" Calling upon heaven, the widow wept and stormed. She made a scene that lasted all night. The next morning she took a seat and chair to the Yamen. Magistrate Tang was holding court, and she laid her case before him. After asking her for a written statement, the magistrate decreed that the matter should be decided by the clan. Then the widow invited Yin Chen Hisian, the clan leader, and all the other relatives to the feast. But of all the local gundry, Yin Chen Hisian feared Senior Licentiate Yin most, and all he would say was, "I may be clan leader, but this matter concerns the close relatives only, not the whole clan. That's all I can say to the magistrate." As for Wang Te and Wang Jin, they sat there like wooden figures and would not express an opinion. The widow's brother, the rice merchant, and the nephew who worked for a silversmith had never been in such high society before. Each time they opened their mouths to speak, Yin glared at them so ferociously that they dared not utter a word. Besides, they were telling himself, she always thought so highly of those Wang brothers and treated us like dirt. Why should we offend Senior Licentiate Yin for her sake? Only fools catch flies on a tiger's head. Much better say nothing and offend nobody. All this made the widow behind the screen as frantic as an ant on a hot furnace. And when she saw that nobody was going to speak up for her, she started to reproach Yin from behind the screen, bringing up old grievances, crying, abusing him, stamping her feet, beating her breasts, and raising a great uproar. Yin lost his temper. "It's obvious that this shrew comes from a low family," he growled. "What upper-class person would behave like this? If she provokes me any more, I'm going to seize her by the hair, give her a good beating, and then ask a go-between to take her away and marry her off." The widow's storming and sobbing could have been heard halfway up the sky. She wanted to rush out to scratch and claw at Yin, and it took several maidservants to restrain her. When the others saw the ugly turn things were taking, they hurried the Senior Licentiate home. The next day, the clan head and others met to discuss what reply should be sent to the county magistrate. Wang Te and Wang Jin declared that as scholars they could take no part in any lawsuit. And the clan head wrote a non-committal statement to the effect that although the widow had indeed been a concubine, she had been made the second wife. However, it was also true that Senior Licentiate Yin felt that it would be wrong for his son to acknowledge her as stepmother. In any event, it was up to the magistrate to make a decision. Now, Magistrate Tang happened to be the son of a concubine, and when he read the statement, he thought, laws are one thing, but the human factor has to be taken into account too, and the Senior Licentiate Yin is a nuisance. He decreed, Since the widow was made a wife, she should not be considered as a concubine. If Senior Licentiate Yin does not wish his son to be adopted, she may choose someone else to adopt. When Mr. Yin read this decree, he nearly went up in smoke. He straightway sent a petition to the prefectural government, but the prefect had concubines too, and he felt that the Senior Licentiate was causing unnecessary trouble. Having asked Cao Yao for details of the case, he issued a decree endorsing Magistrate Tang's decision. Yin was furious. He appealed to the Provincial Commissioner of Justice. But the Provincial Commissioner of Justice ruled, "This is a trivial matter which should be settled by the prefect and the county magistrate." Balked at every turn, Yin did not know how to save his face. Then it occurred to him, Commissioner Chow belongs to the same clan as my daughter-in-law. He decided to go to the capital and beg Commissioner Chow to file a petition there, in order that he might have his rights. But to know whether Senior Licentiate Yin was successful or not, you must read the next chapter.